Today's topic, as usual, heavy stuff. This one, I think you have to read many times. Any comment? Yeah. Have you read? Before that, I ask you to prepare first.
I read one round only lah. I see very dry the subject.
Ah,
I
dry.
went
This
through
one is
one
very
also.
interesting.
Very technical. Very
Yeah, very academic.
Technical,
Mm.
heavy. That's why I say. Not only that, I have to begin with a general introduction of Buddhist texts.
Mm.
Not only Theravada. Try to introduce a Chinese Buddhist text, except Tibetan, I'm not familiar. So, all of us, actually you are familiar only with Theravada version of Tipitaka. You see? So, many of you, especially others, non-academic staff, Theravadin, they only think that in this world, Tipitaka, Theravada version, when talk about the Chinese Buddhist text, they say Mahayana, only one type Mahayana, all from Sanskrit, from India only. This is too general, and then it's not accurate in that sense. If we go deeper into this, you can find out the Chinese Buddhist text. When we talk about the variety, it's more than the Theravada version. Theravada, the Pali version only belongs to Theravada school. But Chinese one covers from Vajrayana, Mahayana, and then one or two texts. Theravada commentary only one or two texts, two at the most two. The rest all belongs to other Buddhist schools and Mahayana text. Everything very comprehensive. So let me see. Can start. Introduction. We always talk about Tipitaka because Theravada only had 3 collections: Vinaya, Pitaka, Sutta, and Abhidhamma. That's why they call Tipitaka, 3 Pitaka, 3 collections. But other business school, sorry, I always use the word business, Buddhist school. Some of them have 4 Pitaka or 5 Pitaka. That's why, but their Pitaka not complete. But from the record now, we know they have 4 or 5. So now some of the text exists in Chinese translation. For example, Mahasangika school, 4 Pitaka. The extra one, Bodhisattva Pitaka. Bodhisattva Pitaka, besides the usual Vinaya Pitaka about monks and nuns rules, they have a Sutta Pitaka, all the suttas. They have Abhidhamma Pitakas. They have extra additional one called Bodhisattva Pitaka that include all the texts about Bodhisattva practice. That's why they call Bodhisattva Pitaka. Then another school, Dhammaguttaka school, they have 5 Pitaka according to the other text Chinese record. Besides the 4, they have another one called Dharani or Mantra Pitaka. That means the collection of all the Parita chanting, Dharani, Mantra, Chinese they call Zhou, Cantonese, I don't know, or just a short statement, statement that has no meaning for protection, Palita purpose, chanting. Dharani. Just as nowadays, Tibetan, they like to chant the Om Mani Padme Hum or or what, this, all this for protection purposes, this and that. So, Dharani Pitaka, Dhamma school they have. In fact, before these lectures, before these topics, we should have a lesson or 18 Buddhist school so that you will understand what is Savasivada school, Dhamma, Pitaka, Mahasangika, right or not? Otherwise, when talk about this school, that school, you also blur. Yeah, but never mind. After this, maybe we have 18 school lesson, 2 lessons. But I think after the third and fourth Buddhist council, then we talk about it because 18 schools appears after the second council. You see, so it overlaps with these topics. So we say other school there, most of them have Tipitaka, 3 Pitaka, 3 collection, but some of them are 4 or 5 lah. But all these they exist in Chinese translation, not in Pali. You see, so because in Chinese Chinese Buddhist text, you have a lot of this text belongs to others Buddhist school. Mahasangika's text also in Chinese translation, even though they are not complete incomplete Then you have Dhamma Chinese text. They have Dhamma Guttaka's text, Mahisasaka. They have a Kashyapa. There was Savastivada. Most of the Buddhist schools text in Chinese translation they have, even though not complete incomplete You see, unlike Theravada, Tipitaka complete. You see, everything complete. Other Buddhist schools, their texts, those texts still survive, extend today in Chinese translation, but unfortunately not complete they may have, say, Agama, Sutta, Pitaka, they're 1 collection. In fact, in Chinese translation, Theravada got 5 Nikayas. Dikka, Majjhima, Samyutta, Anguttara, Buddhaka. In Chinese translation, the Agama, they got 4 Agama. But 4 Agamas all belongs to 4 different schools. That's why we say that now these schools, even though they have Agama in Chinese translation, they don't have other Agamas. First, Dikka Agama, that belongs to Dhammakutaka school. So rightfully, Dhammakutaka school, they have Dikka Agama, they should have Majjhima Agama, correct or not? 4. But the other 3 Agama not available. Similarly, Madhyama Agama in Chinese translation that belongs to Savastivada school. And this Savastivada's Agama in Chinese, only 1 text and 1 Agama exists in Chinese translation. Their Dikka Agama not complete, not in Chinese translation. And then their Samyutta Agama, their Ekotarika Agama, not in Chinese translation, disappear or lost or did not transmit to China, because those days the monk came from Northwest India, Gandhara, they specialize in 1 collection, 1 sutta or few sutta, that's all. Unlike the Theravada, Mahinda went to Sri Lanka, in the head. He, according to tradition, he memorized everything, right? From the Dikka, Nikaya, Machima, then Samyutta, Anguttara, Kulaka, everything, you see, complete. But those monks who went to China to introduce Buddhism, most of them, one agama, that means one collection, equivalent to, corresponding to one Nikaya. Maybe you specialize in Vinaya, that's all. So those texts translated into Chinese and extent or available today becomes incomplete collection of Pitaka. That's a reason, you know. I don't know those monks who went to China, why they only specialize in few texts or few collections, whereas Mahinda went to Sri Lanka, he could memorize everything. The one I cannot answer. You see, that's a Sri Lanka version. The Theravada version is very complete, and then the Chinese one not complete. That's a reason. So until today, the agama, 4 agama in Chinese translation, that corresponding to the Theravada's 4 Nikaya. 4 Nikaya belongs to Theravada, complete. But in Chinese agama, the 4, as I say, all different schools, you see. Right or not? These 4 agama in Chinese translation, according to modern scholars like Analayo, he has done a lot of work translation, comparative Chinese agama and the Theravada's Nikaya. The result is that they are more or less the same, even though it's not 100% the same. Some 60%, 70%, some 40%, you know. That shows that the Nikaya and the agama of other Buddhist schools, they all came from the same source, common source. The theory is that after Buddha Pali Alana chanted all the sutta, recited sutta, Upali recited Vinaya. That was a fountainhead. After that, schism happened. So many Buddhist school formed. Each one based on the original source. They memorize, they reinterpret, maybe they've forgotten this and that, they have rearranged. That's why the agama or nikaya preserved by them shows some differences. You know, not 100% the same. You memorize yours, I memorize my way, you see. But the theory is that they all came from the common source. Okay. So nowadays, you say Buddha's teaching, the most complete is the Theravada's Pali canons, most complete. You have 5 texts Vinaya, you have 5 Sutta Nikayas, you have 7 texts Abhidhamma. Whereas in Chinese other Buddhist schools, for example, Savastivada, you talk about the Sutta wise, you have only 1 text, the Madhyama Agama. So their Dikka Agama missing, Samyutta Agama missing, right? Ekotarika Agama missing. In Chinese translation, you don't have a complete Kudaka Agama, only 4 Agama. That's why when you talk about other Buddhist schools, all incomplete. Savastivada, they have Vinaya in Chinese translation, but the whole text also incomplete compared to Theravada. Savastivada, they have complete 7 texts, Abhidhamma, very complete. Same as Theravada, also complete. But the content totally different. That was what? Abhidhamma of various schools did not come from a common source. You interpret the suttas separately, you interpret the sutta separately, compile, that means you compile Abhidhamma this way, you compile. That's why your content of Abhidhamma and my content of Abhidhamma totally different, unlike the Sutta and Agama and Vinaya, all from the same source. Why you say same source? Because most of the content, even though different school, they compare, modern scholars compare, they are more or less the same. That's why we know from the same source, only slight different here and there. Vinaya also slight different here and there, except a different number of rules. You see, but Abhidhamma is different, totally different. About Abhidhamma, we talk later. The origin of Abhidhamma and development. The one is not today's topic, you see. So another thing is that this one, first paragraph we have discussed. Second one we have discussed. In Chinese, you don't have a complete Buddhaka Nikaya. Theravada have complete 15 texts. Buddhaka, correct or not? But Chinese, they have an individual text. Dhammapala, they have. Then Jataka, they have. But they don't have a 15 texts, complete Buddhaka collection. A collection of complete 15 text Buddhaka, just like the Theravada they have lah. So this is an exception only. Okay. This one, last one also we discussed more or less the same, meaning some 60% similar. No, not 100% the same lah, 60, 70, or some 40, 50, all depends, you see. Vinaya. Nowadays, we have 7 Vinaya texts, or rather we say Vinaya of 7 schools available today. 5 in Chinese translation, 1 in Theravada, Pali version, and 1 in Tibetan, Mula Savasivada version. So, out of 7 versions, Theravada is complete. The rest, 6 Buddhist schools Vinaya, or 6 Vinaya of 6 schools are all incomplete. We are not saying which one is early, which one late. We say complete or not. How the scholars say this one complete, that complete, that one is too technical. I cannot explain to you. So the conclusion is that Theravada's Vinaya is very complete. That's all. The rest not complete. Chinese have 5 sets. As I told you before, scholars compare all the 7 sets of Vinaya. They found out what? The 10 illegal rules I told you all appears, all mentioned in the Vinaya text. It shows that after the second council in the Vaisali, there was no schism, right or not? The one issue we had discussed already last week, second council. We are not going to repeat. This one also last week I told you the oldest versions is a Mahasangika's Vinaya. Why and how? The one I explained to you. I send the notes to you, you see, because it's too technical for me to explain. Some of it also I don't quite familiar. Why is why Mahasangika is very old? Based on what argument? That one is too technical, beyond our understanding, you see. Then nowadays, the Chinese monks and Chinese nuns, they adopted Dhammaguttaka's version of Vinaya. In Chinese, as I say, there are about 5 versions, 5 translations, Vinaya of 5 schools. We say in this way. There were 5 Vinaya of 5 schools available in Chinese. But finally, they adopted only Dhammaguttaka. Okay. Then the Tibetan, their Vinaya rule is based on Mula Savastivada. You see, Mula Theravada, you know lah, Theravada's version, Pali version. Okay. So 3 different versions for 3 different traditions. Okay. Content more or less the same. As I say, not 100%, but more or less the same. Except some the number of rules are different. And then the interpretation may be a bit different. That's all. But details, which one different, which rule are not the same. The one is not in our discussion today. It's too technical, too academic. See? Just to tell you that different tradition adopt different Buddhist schools, Vinaya. And then 3 different versions are different. Slightly different. Why and how? That one, we don't go into it. Okay. Come to Abhidhamma. Abhidhamma, in Chinese translation, there are so many versions. Unlike Theravada Sri Lankan, only 1 version. Theravada, 7 texts, complete. In Chinese translation, Savastivada's Abhidhamma also complete 7 texts. Our Bante Dr. Dhammapala is expert in this Savastivada. Asim Abhidhamma. He's expert lah. His teacher Dhamma Jyoti. His PhD in Savastivada Abhidhamma. See, so Abhidhamma in Chinese translation text translation is considered as complete, but their content is different, very much different compared to the Theravada's version. Okay. Then in Chinese translation, besides the Savastivada's Abhidhamma, other schools, the Dhammaguttaka, they also 1 or 2 texts Abhidhamma available in Chinese translation. You see, and then Pugalawala school, like Wasiputriya, Samitiya school, they also have the Abhidhamma school in Chinese translation. Even though they don't have 7 texts or 6 texts, at least 1 or 2 available in Chinese. So we say it's not complete yet. There are plenty more, but a lot have been lost. It seems that Xuanzang, when he came back from India, he brought back a lot of books, a lot of Abhidhamma books, but some not translated, you see. That's why a lot have been lost, you see. So Mahayana, also 1 text, Abhidhamma, Yogacara school. Abhidhamma in Chinese, there are a few different sub-schools. You had the devotion type, Abhidhamma Pure Land School. That one you don't have Abhidhamma text for you. Then you have Madhyamika School, talk about philosophy, emptiness. The one we don't have, they don't have Abhidhamma text. Then another subset of Mahayana, they call Yogacara School, mind only school. This school, Yogacara, they have 1 Abhidhamma Samuchaya. Abhidhamma Samuchaya, compiled by Asanga. This is to today believed to be the only Mahayana sub-school that has the Abhidhamma text. So there's a general idea about the current all the Chinese Buddhist texts, as well as the Sri Lankan Pali version. Pali version, you are aware of it. I don't know whether you are aware or not. Later, I will discuss with you one lesson, Pali literature, maybe 2 lessons. One lesson cannot complete, then at least 2 lessons. Because I found a lot of these Theravada, when you ask them, what are the Buddhist texts that belongs to Theravada school, they cannot give a correct answer. They only say the best answer is Tipitaka. Tipitaka, that's all. If you say Tipitaka consists of what text, they only tell you maybe, Vinaya. Vinaya, or which are the 5 texts, they can't tell you. So if you ask them for Sutta, they can tell you. Dika Nikaya, Samyutta, Majjhima, Anguttara. When you ask them about Buddhaka, how many texts, they can't tell you. Which are texts, and the most they tell you, Jataka, Dhammapala, that's all. So Abhidhamma, of course, they don't know. They say, Abhidhamma, that's all. So they need to have a lesson or 2 just to share with them, tell them your holy text. Not to say 100% all the texts, we must let them know. At least you must know the 29 or 31 texts, 5 from Vinaya, 4 Nikaya, plus the 15 texts of Kulaka Nikaya. 15, 19, plus 5, 24. 24, the 7 texts, Abhidhamma, 30 over, you see. Vinaya depends. If you say 3 also can, you say 5 also can, depend. Because Sutta Vibhanga, you can break down to Mahavibhanga and Bhikkhuni Vibhanga, right or not? Then the Khandaka, you can say consists of 2 books, Chulavaga, Mahavaga. So you can say 5, you can say 3 for Vinaya, depends. But if you talk about Sutta Pitaka, 4 Nikaya plus the Buddhaka 15 text, there's a Sri Lankan version that follow Buddhagosa's list. But Burmese, they may have 18 or 19 texts different, you see. That's why you have to be specific, be careful. They're talking from, you follow Burmese tradition or you follow Sri Lankan version, again, different number. See. So, we don't go into details. Now, a general survey, more or less over. Any question before we go into the proper lesson today? So more or less you have an idea, Chinese Buddhist text compared to the Sri Lankan Theravada version. No question? No, nothing. Okay, it's very complicated. Shows that Chinese one is very complicated, more complicated than and more comprehensive. I haven't gone into details yet. Chinese text, the Pure Land version, the Vajrayana version, they also have Vajrayana text, Chinese. So details we don't go into, just a general Tipitaka. So now introduction is over. We come to the proper lesson, maybe. So everyone knows. Now we concentrate on the compilation of Pali Tipitaka, Theravada version. Okay, we are not going to talk about Chinese or Tibetan anymore. So we concentrate today's lesson, the compilation of Pali Tipitaka. So everyone knows during Buddha's time, no written record, no written text to write down, to record down whatever sutta spoken or preached by Buddha, because everyone knows it's all based on what? Oral transmission. Oral transmission is that Buddha delivered the sermons, disciple listen, then they memorize, listen, memorize, and then they go back, they recite it in front of their disciples, other monks, they also learn it, they also memorize it. So memorize, transmit from one generation to another generation. This is the practice during those days, during Buddha's time. You see, it was an ancient tradition. Why they did it this way? Because all Indians, philosophical school, religious school, they practice this in this manner. First thing, maybe during their time, they did not have pen or writing or words or something like that. There's no historic evidence, just to mention that there was a written record during India that time. People believe that, or maybe those government, the court, they have some written record, belief only. But so far, nobody can produce evidence. Even in the Vinaya text, Buddhist, the Pali, there's nothing mentioned about paper, ink, pen, nothing in the Vinaya. I never talk about this term. This term never appear in the Vinaya text, right or not? You have gone through the Vinaya. Have you found out? Have you found out any this text mentioned about writing, pen or ink? Well, not nothing.
No, no. So far, I
Nothing.
didn't hear. It's the only thing is
So far
everyone
never.
needs to come only.
So far
Task.
never. Only recite, recitation. That's all. Memorize. Never talk about record, this nothing. It shows that the time we tell them what's pen, they also don't know. That's why they're based on
It's a
memorization.
illiterate society lah, right?
That's why telling stories is very important. You see, everyone believe you have your own version. I have my own version. That's how they practice during that time. This tradition. You just use a nice word lah. Oh, that's our tradition, you see. But it's not nice to say that, oh, they don't have paper, they don't have ink, they don't know how to write words. Not nice to tell that, That's correct or not? In the books, tell it nicely lah. Oh, that's our tradition to memorize, you see. You see. Not nice to tell you, don't have paper to write. Don't know how to write. Okay, so they don't talk about that. So how do you know the early Buddhist tradition is based on memorization, based on oral transmission from the current Pali Tipitaka? You can notice something, especially the Sutta. You see a lot of repetition, right? There for one time, this like that, second time, I say like that, third time, I say like that. It's not because Buddha's habit, I must tell 3 times, Sometimes we say Buddha must repeat 3 times only anything so that you can remember. But the purpose is that the compiler of the sutta, or the monks, they memorize many times so that they can remember. First thing, repetition.
Also, brother, yeah, you mean to say it's not in the sutta, the Buddha always say 3 times. So you mean to say it's not actually like that?
Yeah.
Huh?
A lot of people think
Really?
that Buddha must repeat 3 times.
Yeah.
Only I can make it a habit. It's a
Yes.
compiler. Sometimes it's a habit that I can tell you again and again. so that you can remember. You see?
Really?
Yeah, I thought you had to request 3 times only.
Yeah,
Then,
lor.
That's why a lot of
Exactly,
people.
not everything is 3 times.
That's why a
yeah,
lot of people think it this way.
So it's not true. Okay.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
yeah, me too. First time only.
Yeah.
That's
Tell
why
Ayah
a
this.
lot of people say, oh,
Yeah.
7 days,
Ah.
you get enlightenment, or 7 months, or 7 weeks.
Or 7, 7.
Purpose. That's why they say, oh, Mahakasapa, I got 500 disciple traveling, walking from Pawa to Kusinara. Or then they say, oh, Abhidhamma, Sariputta have to, have to transmit Abhidhamma to his 500 disciples. Also 500. Chinese also follow this. Pak Lohon.
And the bhikkhunis also, the Mahapajapati, also 500 nuns.
Yeah.
All 500.
So you mean to say it's not true?
They have their own purpose.
No, no.
When they say, oh, 1,000 monks follow them, or Buddha give discourses, there were thousands of how many people listen to you. Not exactly 100,000 or 5,000 people listen, just to give you some idea. A lot of people present at the place.
So the figures are not
not
necessarily correct.
The 500
For illustration.
500 attended the first council. Also 500.
Yeah, 500 also. Yes.
So if you go to India, the Satapani cave there, such a small and narrow place. People ask me, but yeah, you say 500. How they will go to 500?
Brother, yeah, Ayah say, or maybe your dad, Ayah say it's because the terrain has changed. She said that because it's more than 2,600 years ago, right?
It's what
So
you
she
believe.
said it has changed. In the past, it wasn't like that. Otherwise, how can, even 5 people also cannot fit in the cave.
Yeah, correct.
500 is what you guess lah. That's the only reason. The geologists never come up with a report lah. Those days to hear this up to here, it's a guess only lah, to justify your claim. That's all. It's what normally we believe lah. Unless you come out with a report, just like Ganges river, how many years low those days up to this line, after 100 years, those days up to here, today up to here. And that's different. Just like the Bujang Valley, the coastal line, those days was very deep. Now it's so shallow. They have a report. You say like that, it's a belief only lah, So that to you, oh, maybe it's acceptable, but any evidence, sorry, don't know. So don't tell Ayah lah. Ayah, because it's rather Okay. So we talk about the evidence textual evidence that you can derive from the current version of Tipitaka, proving that those days was based on oral transmission. First thing, repetitive passages. Second thing, a lot of parable, sutta, not sutta, stories, easier for you to remember when I talk about story, then you can recall this and that. Right or not? So, simple verses, stories, parable, repetition. So all these character features prove that those days the suttas delivered all compiled by the monks just to make people memorize or remember the sutta in a much easier manner, with all these characteristics. So early practice during Buddha's time, how they remember the suttas, the teaching of Buddha. memorization, oral transmission. That's all. Any proof, no archaeological evidence, at least from the modern version of Tipitaka, we gather some, what we call some special features, special characteristic. Then we guess that must be the way, you know. So how this one we discussed last week. During Buddha's time, so today Buddha give us a discourse like that. Next day another discourse. So we say not well organized according to the system. So so when people came up with a systematic record of Buddha's teaching, it was during the first council, the one we discussed last week in it. After Buddha passed away, during the first council, then Ananda decided the Sutta, Pali decided the Vinaya rule. Then slowly people began to systematically codify, arrange all the Sutta. These are the Sutta, like that. Unlike those days, Buddha's time, nobody arranged for it. They today may have this, next day may have this and that. But this type of arrangement during the first councils, the information came late, recorded in Samatha Pasarika, the commentary text. So whether it's reliable or not, we don't know. It must be this way. And then the text says that after the councils, the teachings, Buddha's teaching have been, Sutta have been divided into few parts, few Nikaya, and then there's a revision of works. So assigned to different monks. So Ananda and his disciple memorized Tika, Kaya, then Mahakasapa, and Anurula, and Sariputta. They also responsible to memorize certain group of sutta. So all this information appears in the later text. Whether it's true or not during Buddha's time or immediately after Pali Nibbana, such arrangement have been made or not, we don't know, you see. But that's all the late theories, is what people say. Buddha Kosa say. Another thing is that scholar believe that, or according to tradition, people believe that during Buddha's time, there was a system called Bhanaka system to memorize Buddha's teaching. So during Buddha's time, of course, we believe that they based on memorization and oral transmission. So how? Now people believe there was a system called Bhanaka system. Bhanaka literally means reciter. Bhanaka reciter, he recite suttas so that after some time he remember, then he will teach the disciple, other monk, about the sutta. So this system, Bhanaka system, during Buddha's time, people believe there was no archaeological evidence that says that Bhanaka existed during that time, and how they work, how they memorize. There was no evidence, but people believe that such system, because this theory was mentioned in the later text. For example, in commentary. Commentary mentioned that during Buddha's time, or at least after Buddha's time, after Buddha passed away, there were disciples called Bhanaka. Each group of this Bhanaka responsible to memorize or to recite certain group of sutta. So according to a commentary, they mention Dika Nikaya Bhanaka. They are Bhanaka who responsible to memorize, to decide Majjhima. Also Bhanaka to decide to memorize Samyutta and so on. But not all the texts have been mentioned, you know. Here they mention a group of few Bhanaka. In Buddha Ghosa's commentary, he mentioned Bhanaka of 4 Nikayas only. And then he mentioned Jataka Bhanaka, Dhammapada Bhanaka, Buddhaka Nikaya Bhanaka. You see? So not all the 15 texts in the Kuddaka Nikaya, only a selected group. Jataka Bhanaka means those who memorize, those who decided Jataka stories only. Dhammapala Bhanaka are those group of deciders, those monks who memorize Dhammapala. So it's another form of revision of work. This is quite different from the earlier version. Dika Nikaya must be memorized by Ananda and his disciple. Sariputta and the disciple memorize Majjhima Nikaya. This is different saying. This Bhanaka system is another saying for certain group of disciples, certain group of monks memorize Buddhaka Nikaya or Jataka or Dhammapala. So this theory also mentioned by Buddha Ghosa, you see, even though it appears late 5th century CE, about 800 years after Buddha passed away. Then only he explained how Buddha's teaching was memorized during that time. Either they have a Bhanaka system, or either they have a revision of works. Two different sayings. But other system nobody mentioned. Bhanaka system and revision of works only. Bhanaka system.
Recording in
Hey, now only recording.
No, it's recording.
Oh.
No, why just now? What happened? Sister Karunika?
Oh, you know why? Because earlier on my laptop, something goes wrong. I cannot switch on my laptop. So I tried to call the HP people, and this time you see I'm off the video, isn't it? Because I tried to call the HP people to do some troubleshooting for me. So now it seems that I can switch on my laptop already with the screen on. So I use my laptop now to log in the Zoom, because earlier on I used this tab. So the tab, when you know the sound not so good, a bit soft.
Oh, okay.
So the official recording only started just now.
Huh?
No, brother. Yeah,
Because I
already
heard
in the beginning. Already in the beginning.
Okay.
Because Sister Juliana, Sister Karunika, she logged in just now.
I
First
see.
log in, you will get the message recording in progress.
I was wondering.
No, it already started since we started.
Okay.
Okay.
Now we come back.
Mm.
See, evidence of memorization and transmission. According to Buddha, he gave two versions, two theory. One is Bhanaka system, right? One is assignment of Nikaya to various monks, senior monk. But he mentioned in his commentary, which was compiled very late, 800 years after Buddha passed away. Very convincing, true or not. We just believe that. It's a traditional belief, even though no archaeological evidence to prove that. How this, but one thing we know is that from a current Tipitaka, current version of Sutta Pitaka, you know, some devices, some methods have been devised, have been invented. For example, a lot of stories, repetition, right? That's what I told you. So that means this is the earliest theory instead of memorize based on by the Bhanaka, memorization by the monks. The early sutta says that they have some special features to facilitate your memorization, memorizing of the sutta, repetition of passages, story, this and that. That's all. That's another version. Okay. So people believe the Bhanaka system, believe again that such practice continue few hundred years after Buddha passed away. The workload existed during Buddha's time and still existed and practiced by the monk even when the teaching had been written down black and white, 1st century BCE. As you know, the Pali version of Tipitaka was officially written down black and white in Sri Lanka, right? In a place called Matale, central Sri Lanka, during the 4th Buddhist Council, the one we are going to discuss next week. The 4th Buddhist Council meeting held in Sri Lanka. One of the biggest or main significant was the record down of Tipitaka onto the palm leaf. That one we discuss later. So before Tipitaka has been recorded down on the palm leaf or ola leaf, people believe that memorization by the Bhanakas or by the disciple of the 4 senior monks. Or they believe that even without the Bhanaka or the disciple senior monk, how they memorize. Okay? A lot of repetition, a lot of stories have been added into the sutta. All this method to make memorization easy. That's all. That was the practice during that time. This one we discuss. So different school, they also have their own Bhanaka. That's what they believe. No archaeological evidence, but Buddha came up with these theories. They were Bhanaka to memorize the sutta. Obviously, they must have some people who memorize all these. That's what we believe also, even though you don't have black and white. So they also believe that different school, because by that time, after the 2nd council, you have so many Buddhist schools start appearing in India, all in all around 18 or 20 over school. So different school also, they have a group of reciter, a group of Bhanaka monks responsible for recitation, responsible for memorizing all the sutta, so that they can can repeat and transmit to the junior, to other monk from time to time. So different school have different Bhanaka that explain why. In the times, as the time passes, they may have missed out certain sutta, they have missed out certain paragraph, they must have missed out certain passages, correct or not? Let's explain why the Agama or Savasivada school, the Nikaya or Theravada school, Agama or Dhammagutaka school, their suttas, when you compare, you cannot have 100% similarity, correct or not? Why? Because different school, they memorize different time, different by different people. So as the time passes, you may have a lot of mistake missing here and there. That's why nowadays you compare the Agama and the Nikaya of various schools, you're bound to find out some errors, some missing suttas, correct or not? That shows that different schools have appointed their own group of Bhanaka during that time. Okay. Correct or not? So this is another thing. So just to explain to you the Bhanaka system, how they work during that time. One thing is that different Bhanaka memorize different group of sutta. Different school have another group of Bhanaka also memorize their own group of sutta according to their interpretation. And Bhanaka not only memorize and transmit suttas, they also organize. You know, they have the power to organize. This sutta should be classified under Dikha Nikaya. This one should be Majjhima Nikaya. That's why in the Chinese Agama and the Pali Nikayas, even though you say the content-wise maybe 60-70% similar, but arrangement can be different. Can be different. Some sutta in Chinese one, they have, you can find in this, for example, Dikha Agama. But this suttas, corresponding sutta, when you come to Pali Nikaya, different Nikaya. Same sutta, different Nikaya, different Agama. But same sutta lah. Even though the sutta not 100% the same lah, maybe 80, but the arrangement wise different again. Okay. There's another features. Okay.
So, Brother Yap, can I say that? Like, for example, the Mangala Sutta, I was so surprised that it was also appear in the Mahayana.
Not surprised. Sure. Well, Jataka also there.
Oh, Jataka, Mangala Sutta. So but they
so
write, of
many
course, in Chinese
Ratana.
pinyin Chinese.
Then in the Dhammapala also a Chinese version.
Oh, okay.
So many versions. Yes.
Okay.
That's
Then
why.
how about Ratana Sutta? So you have it in the Mahayana context.
Yeah, even though not 100%, you may have this. Sometime the Chinese version, they may miss out this. And they don't have this. Because different monks, they went to China. Some of them, they might not.
But the Mangala Sutta quite close, Now I can say 99%.
Yeah, as I say, should be Dhammapala also the same. Jataka also more or less the same. Only things after
the language different.
100 years, they have missed out certain paragraph or something like that,
But the short one cannot miss out, isn't it?
99.
Unless the long one,
Yeah, long one, you sure miss out how many thousand words, how many thousand sutta, I don't know.
And you want to translate from Pali to Chinese, it's also not English, not that
Translation
easy.
some more, they must
Not that
miss out
easy.
something, you see. Explain how. Why Chinese version and the Theravada version not 100% agree. Maybe 80, because 70 is considered good already, More
Yeah,
than
correct.
the same. Minor things, like the arrangement, that one of course are not important. The content wise must be the same.
Yeah, correct.
Then we talk about the we cover the early transmission, how Buddha's teaching was memorized and transmitted. So few system in it. So now we come to another thing, is that first council we discussed this already. Buddha's 45 years of preaching career, so-called career, he used what dialect or what languages? Of course, Xinjiang, the time he spoke Sakyan dialects. Nowadays, people traditionalists, they say, oh, Buddha spoke Pali, but any evidence? There was no, they cannot come up with evidence. They only believe only according to tradition. That's why you say according to tradition. This what from generation to generation we always believe in such a way. Oh, he spoke Pali, he spoke Pali. But Buddha never mentioned in the Sutta or Vinaya that he spoke Pali. Not even the Pali word not appear in the Sutta also. Why not? No such thing. No such thing.
Pali is a language, right? So at the time of the Buddha,
There was no such word called Pali language. They have a lot of languages. Of course, they have a lot of language, a lot of dialects. But no such word as a Pali language during the time.
It came later.
Now, because for convenience sake, that's why you have to give a label, right? Oh, he spoke Pali. Just because nowadays the terms to describe your holy text, oh, you call Pali text, then you say Buddha must have spoken Pali lah. You work backwards, you work backwards. Instead you read from the sutta, now you read add back to those days, opposite, to justify your belief today. So you have to work backward, you see. Instead of from early days like that, from history is like that, then slowly transmit until today. But now you believe like that, then you create some reason, push it backward. This is how people work. You get me?
Yeah, that means you look back lah. That means the behind, you see from behind.
Now, because you believe that is Buddha spoke Pali, then you must create some reason to justify your answer. You see?
This one, like watching Star Wars, I tell you.
Right. So you see, local, his disciple will those days, this one okay lah. This one in which you own that. The only evidence that Buddha say was that in the Vinaya, because there was a story in the Vinaya that two Brahmin approached Buddha and they say, can we translate your teaching into Sanskrit or not? Chandaso. Buddha said, no. We advise you, we encourage you to preach in your own dialect. Okay. So, Sakaya Nirutiya, your own local dialect. Why? Why? Because the Buddha discouraged the use of Chandaso. Chandaso is a controversial term. A lot of people translate it as Vedic Sanskrit. In fact, it's not the language itself that matters. It's Buddha discouraged the use of Vedic Sanskrit. As I said, not because it's Sanskrit I disallow. just because Sanskrit, worded Sanskrit was used by the Brahmin for their own ritual, ceremony, purpose. And the Brahmin used to chant, Dharani, used to sing, the time they used to sing their own sutta, Dharani, and then they based on the very strict formality, So in order not to that disciple Buddhist to follow their style, that's why Buddha discouraged the disciple to use the worded Sanskrit, which was adopted by the Brahmin. There's one main reason, not because they use Sanskrit. I also stop you from using Sanskrit, because if you use Sanskrit like the Brahmins, you tend to follow their styles. That's what Buddha worries about. And that's why first thing. Second thing, you want to popularize the teaching of Buddha. If you teach in Sanskrit, very few people, only the upper class people will understand, will comprehend. If you teach in the local dialects, you go to Hokkien, you speak Hokkien dialect lah. You don't go to Hokkien, speak Tamil to them. Talk Tamil, nobody understand, correct? Right? You go to Hainan, you speak Suki lah. You talk English, they don't know, you see, correct or not? So it's very logical. Buddha's reason you encourage you to speak with your own dialects, or with a dialect popular in that place, correct or not? Pragmatism, pragmatic methods. So there are two reasons. One, to avoid the influence of Brahmanism. Another thing is to popularize the teaching of Buddha, and let more people understand if you speak their own dialect. Two reasons. So during Buddha's time, when you talk about the transmission, talk about the way to what languages they use, this is this was the way lah. I explained to you lah, and not to say that prohibit Sanskrit. It's not so simple as that. You see, they have the reason behind. So during Buddha's time, as I told you, no proper method to organize all the teachings according to Nikaya. It's not what Buddha Gosa say, or five Nikaya. During the first meeting, first council, everything in five Nikaya. Not like that, you see. Because in the Sutta, Buddha only say his teaching was Dhamma Vinaya. Okay. There's only thing Buddha say. My teaching was Dhamma Vinaya. So the evidence in the first Buddhist council, only Dhamma, that means Sutta, and the Vinaya were decided. Correct or not? There was no such thing as Abhidhamma or another thing else. See. So what other classifications of how Buddha's teaching was organized? Early days, the one, if you look back at the Sutta from Anguttara Nikaya, it mentions one thing, during that time, or the early days when Buddha's time, or shortly after Buddha passed away, Buddha's teaching was organized into what we call 9 angas. Some call 12 angas, some say 9 angas, because not Tipitaka. and not Nikaya during Buddha's time. Because Nikaya Tipitaka came later, few hundred years after schism, the time after so many Buddhist schools appear, then only the term Nikaya Tipitaka appear. But before the second Buddhist council, the Buddha's teaching was organized according to what we call 12 anga, 12 group, 12 limbs. Anga means limbs. So, which were the 12 or 9 limbs, anga? The classification system was based on a combination of forms and content. Literally means styles. So 9 groups. One they call Sutta. All discourses and sermon in prose, in writing, essay type, they call Sutta. This information you can refer to Anguttara Nikaya. You see the notes right here. This classification mentioned in Anguttara Nikaya, believed to appear after the first council, but before the Tipitaka appears. You see, Anguttara Nikaya, you can notice this 9 anga. Then the second class of the Buddha's teaching, they call Geya. What is Geya? Geya means Sutta incorporated Gatha, the verses. Some of the Sutta talk, then the Buddha utters short verses, correct or not? That type of teaching, they group together, they call Geya. Third, they have a class of Buddha's teaching called Vyakarana, explanation. So those commentary literature. In fact, during Buddha's time, you had certain type of teaching. It looks like commentary, this explanation, you see, was included. The early so-called Abhidhamma type, the type of teaching. In fact, they were called Vyakarana. They don't call it Abhidhamma. During Buddha's time, no such thing as Abhidhamma. They have Matika. Matika is a listing. It's a list, a summary existed during Buddha's time. You see, Matika, but not Abhidhamma. Abhidhamma is an expansion of a further elaboration of Matika. So you have Gatha, something like poem, poetry, Gatha. People used to sing it, Gatha, Mangala. What Gatha is that? A chanting session, they always sing Gatha, verses. Udana, utterance. Itivutaka, Jataka, Abhidhamma, Dara. So during shortly after Buddha passed away, these 9 limbs appear in the Buddhist text, the classification, and not 5 Nikaya or Tipitaka. These are still this thing appear later. The earliest classification during Buddha's time, Buddha only mentioned Dhamma Vinaya, correct or not? So shortly after that, this 9 anga came out. 9 anga came out. Then after that, only Tipitaka, Nikaya, all this later story. This 9 anga, 9 class types of teachings, 9 group appear officially in the Anguttara Nikaya. It's not what we say believed to be this way, believed, but actually you can read You can find out from Anguttara Nikaya. So the early classification, we have talk about the early memorization, early transmission, how people memorize, division of works, then early classification of Buddha's teaching during Buddha's time, Dhamma, Vinaya. After that, you had 9 angas, right? No? That was early. Then slowly, you have Pitaka, Nikaya. That was after the second Buddhist council. But when it appeared, nobody can tell because in India we don't have a black and white record. Oh, this some people group this into 5 Nikaya, this and that, group into Tipitaka. No such record. People believe that after the second council. Why second council? Because so many Buddhist schools appear. That period they call Nikaya Buddhism or Nikaya. Slowly come out with the term Nikaya. So since after that, different school they combine Vinaya, Abhidhamma, Sutta separately. So they will have the Tipitaka, the term Nikaya, that slowly appear during that time. But exact years when nobody knows. You see, people believe. You see. So Tipitaka appears according to Theravada's tradition, third Buddhist council. First time Tipitaka was officially complete. Because third council next week when we talk that time, the Abhidhamma was complete, the last text was compiled. Then they decided the Tipitaka together. Because earlier on they have Vinaya complete one. Right or not? Sutta. Also they have a collection of Sutta. Except Abhidhamma. Until the third council only, they have completed 7 texts. After the third council. So the third council, you have officially the Tipitaka 3 collection for Theravada school, you see, after the council. The Sutta Vinaya, this one just now we discussed. Sutta Vinaya, all these are first council already we have. Then the teaching had not been completed into Pitaka or Nikaya yet. The one just now I told you, only after second Buddhist council, but when we don't know. Sometime after that. You see. So we briefly now we know Tipitaka more or less appear third Buddhist council, 3rd century BCE that time. So how Vinaya was compiled, Vinaya Pitaka. During Buddha's time, first 20 years, Buddha did not, according to commentary, Buddha did not introduce the Patimokkha rules. First 20 years. Buddha only talk about the precept, talk about the, what to do, what not to do in the discourses. And the monks will follow the teaching as mentioned in the sermon discourses, or what to do, what not to do. That's a basic precept appear in the mentioned in the sutta. No official Patimokkha rules. Consider Vinaya rule, first 20 years. You see. So all the basic rules, initial rules, all for monks' personal training, personal observing, no killing, not to do this, not to do that. And early day, of course, monk all live a wandering life. They are not monastic. not settled life. They don't have a fixed dwelling place. So no rules about communal living, about the behavior in the monastery. All individual personal training rules. There was the early rules that mentioned in the Sutta. Then 20 years later, then only Buddha started prescribing the first Patimokkha rule. How it happens. First Vinaya rule was the rule that prohibited sexual affair. There was a serious rule. The story was that there was a monk called Sudana, Sudinia, pronounced Sudinia. He was a monk. Before he became a monk, he got a family, a wife. So later, after becoming a monk, one day he left the family. So, but one day he wander, and then passed by his house. His mother saw him, asked him to offer him food, asked him to stay overnight. Then he got a affair with a wife. There's some monk reported to Buddha. Buddha only came up with the first rule. Of course, guilty or not, Sudina, not guilty, but before that, based on the law of precedent, no such rule yet. So you're not guilty, but from now onwards, I advocate or prescribe the first rule. From now onward, all the rules, Patimokkha rule, one by one, have been introduced as and when certain thing happen. And not one shot, 200 overrule introduced to you. It's not that way. As and when you have broken this, that, you have done that thing wrong, then Buddha one by one introduced a rule. That was the gradual methods. Not one shot 200 overrule introduced by Buddha, no. You see. So here I told you before the Vinaya monastic practice, follow the 5 precepts taught in the Sutta. They were practiced common by samana, understood the tradition practice celibacy wandering go for alms pinapat alms round this and that. Then those basic what to do, what not to do just follow Buddha's teaching that's all. Initial rules were flexible, relying on mutual respect. Rule, punish, law. No early group or rule, as I told you before, no such thing as punishment, this and that, right? No. Even during the Uposatha days, the chief monk, the head, the most senior monk in that Sima, that region, he decided Patimokkha rules. The rest just listen only, why? They listen and memorize so that they still can remember. No such thing as punishment rule. Later only they introduce. Oh, you have done this thing wrong. They come out and acknowledge and sorry, leave it to the monk to decide. There was a later practice, you see. That's how this Vinaya rule was introduced and compiled. Officially compiled, of course, during the first council, but during Buddha's time, just to tell you how this rule came about. Earlier, first 20 years, how people observe the rule, and after that, based on the rule, based on the special occasion, one by one they introduce. And the early Patimokkha rule of mainly for personal training, no such thing as punishment, this and that, even though they held the Uposatha day just to memorize, to refresh your mind only. The introduction of punishment, the rule, this one came later. Okay. This one we have covered before. The classification of Vinaya of Theravada school. Basically, three: Sutta Vibhanga, Khandaka, Parivara. Then Sutta Vibhanga subdivided into rules for the monk, Mahavibhanga, rule for the Bhikkhuni, Bhikkhuni Vibhanga. Now, early on, but the current version of this Vibhanga mix Patimokkha rule and the stories together. The stories are not Buddha's word, but the Patimokkha rules are originally Buddha's saying. The story just to explain why, when, and where Buddha introduced this rule. This story, in fact, considered as a commentary of the Patimokkha rule. But people combine the two and make it a single text. One for a monk, they call Mahavibhanga. One text that combine rules and the story explanation rules into Bhikkhuni Vibhanga for the nuns. So
Hey, brother, so you
Yeah.
mean to say the Vibhanga, Vibhanga, Bhikkhuni Vibhanga, it includes commentary lah.
Yeah.
Means the
The
rule,
current version. Current version. Not during Buddha's time.
but so does it say which ones are the commentaries in this?
Commentary, the story part.
The story part lah. Okay, thank you.
Right, not when you read the current, the whole thing, the Vinaya rules, Vinaya text, doesn't mean everything, Buddha's word, remember, inside have been embedded or included commentary and the rules all together, jump up inside one text already. So you have to be careful. Certain part Buddha's word, certain part not Buddha's word.
Okay.
Similarly, Khandaka, you have Chulavaga, Mahavaga. Certain text they talk about first council, second council or not. Correct or not? First council, second council you can find in Chulamaga. Right or not? So you cannot say, oh, this is Buddha's word. Buddha talk about the first council, second council. After Pali Nibbana, how do you know? Correct or not? For example, the Pali Nibbana Sutta talk about the cremation, talk about the distribution of the relic. Can you say that is a Buddha's word? The early part maybe. Early part also is the monk who recall the journey. He just memorized for a compiler to compile it. He mixed the cremation, the part of cremation, mix the part of relic distribution, everything together and form into the Pali Nibbana Sutta. That's from historical perspective lah. But of course, these people say everything Buddha's word lah to make it simple lah. If you want to know the actual truth, the actual historical aspect, you have to split out lah, investigate lah, be critical lah. So similarly, the Vinaya text also, the part considered as Buddha's words are the Patimokkha and the ordination procedure in the Khandaka. These two, you can consider as Buddha's word. The rest all commentary or later addition. Okay. Commentary are those who explain the Patimokkha rule. Later addition are those first council, second council, this and that in the Khandaka. And the third one, the Parivara, is a summary index of all the rules, all the Patimokkha rule and this rule, that rule. So this text, in fact, according to scholar, was compiled in Sri Lanka. It's a later edition, you see. So basically, the Vinaya is like that. Which are the texts that make up the Vinaya? Which part of Vinaya text are considered as Buddha's word? More or less, you know lah. Okay. 5:30 ah. Alamak. Then we have discussed Vinaya, the text of Vinaya, the development of Vinaya, the nature of the rules. Now we talk briefly about the Sutta. The Sutta, as I told you, Buddha's time, Buddha only talk about Dhamma, Vinaya, nothing else. It's only during the first council, Ananda decided all the sutta, but he never mentioned which are the sutta he memorized, and he did not say, this Nikaya never. Only he memorized. According to early text Vinaya, say he only memorized the sutta, Dhamma and Vinaya, Dhamma. That's all. Upali memorized Vinaya. That's all. Nothing else. And later only people say sutta have been classified into 9 anga and 12 anga. And Nikaya, they will appear later again, as I told you just now, you see. So now, classification we discuss which part of the sutta can be considered as Buddha's word. Generally, according to modern scholars, to be easy, you cannot pinpoint each sutta, which sutta. The first 4 Nikaya, you can safely say, Buddha's word. And the 5th one, Kudaka, 15 texts, not all. Only these few texts you can say Buddha's word. Sutta Nipata, Dhammapada, Tipitaka, Udana. These few you can say Buddha's word. And be careful, the Dhammapada excluding the story part. Story considered as a commentary. Only the verses considered Buddha saying. Similarly, Jataka story parts, not Buddha's word, commentary. Sometimes Jataka inside got certain verses. Very seldom you find those what you can say Buddha's saying. Other texts like Buddha Wangsa, Pati, Sambidamaga, Peta Waktu, Acharya Pitaka, Abhidhamma, Vimala Waktu, all these are later addition, later compilation. In fact, they compile after the third council, when the first time Tipitaka had been canonized. Later, a lot of texts still introduced to Sri Lanka, they have added in, to make it into 15 texts of Buddhaka Nikaya. This 15 text was introduced by whom? By Buddha Gosa. Is not, this listing are not classified by Buddha, Remember, you cannot say Buddha recommended this 5 Nikaya, or Buddha talk about say this 30 over sutta should be included in the Dika Nikaya. No, you cannot say Buddha say all these 15 texts are under Kulaka. No, all these whose works? Buddha Gosa. In the commentary, he mentioned these 15 texts. But nowadays, the Burmese are very smart. They add in another 3 into Kudaka Nikaya. They say Buddha's word. Peta Kopadesa, or Sutta Sanghaha, this Mirinda Pana. Also, they have added into the Kudaka Nikaya. You see. Why not? So they make it 18 or 19 texts, Burmese version. Sri Lanka still follow Buddha Ghosa's list, 15 books. Okay. You argue with Burmese, you cannot. Don't argue. They say this is 19 Buddha's word. Don't talk so much. You are correct according to your tradition. Okay, fine. I follow Buddha Ghosa's 15 book. And you cannot say according to Buddha, 15 text, that's wrong, you see, because Buddha never say that. Any sutta, you cannot find out that, oh, Buddha say it's 15 texts included in the Pitakas, never. And Buddha also never say that I spoke Pali in any sutta, never say. Any sutta that mention the word Pali, you don't find it. You see. Now we talk about the later we talk about Buddha's the languages. Later.
Sorry, so just the previous slide, that Professor Hirakawa.
Yes.
He,
Hirakawa's theory is that during the first councils, Ananda did not memorize all the sutta exactly what we have today. And it's quite possible lah. How can talk everything in there, whatever we read today, exactly the same as Ananda decided. Why not?
So it was expanded by other people.
Yes, he is what Hirakawa say lah. Ananda only decided the gist of it. Now only people expanded Kaliu lah.
Kaliu.
Yes.
Means it's not authentic anymore, no?
Of course, you cannot. Important thing is agree with Buddha's teaching or not. This one thing. If you talk about word by word, of course, nobody can guarantee you word by word. But you agree.
I mean, not all the suttas lah.
Yes.
I agree with
Mahayana
some suttas, not all.
Yes. Mahayana will tell you this way. You say Mahayana not Buddha's word, maybe according to history, that's correct. But you say agree, align with Buddha's teaching or not, of course align with Buddha's teaching. So we are still Buddhist. We are not a Buddha's word, I'm not saying Buddha, we are Buddhist. This is Buddhist teaching. If you say Sumedha, Buddha's word or not, of course, it's Theravada's teaching, it's not Buddha's teaching. Buddha never in a life never talk about Sumedha, Buddha Wangsa, this and that. But it's Theravada's teaching. Or you call it a Buddhist teaching, Buddhist. That's why if you read late chief books, he always specify, Buddha's word or Buddhist belief. Why not? You remember he used the word Buddhist belief. Means I never say it's Buddha say that, but Buddhist believe in such a way, or Theravada believe in such. That's why I use the word Buddhist belief. That's why you have to be careful when you read any book. Traditionally, it's like that. That means not according to history. It's traditional belief. If you say with evidence, then you say according to history. It's like that. You can say traditionally, Buddhists believe that during the first council, 5 Nikaya have been decided. You can say that, correct? I never say Buddha say that. It's a Buddhist belief, but tradition. But you say according to history, first council, Ananda decided 5 Nikaya, and then so and so decided Abhidhamma. According to history, then it's wrong. But you say according to our traditional belief, then I cannot say anything. This is Theravada. Everybody will say that. This is according to tradition. That's why I say you argue, you can say you are correct. He also correct. It depends on how you bring out your point. How you explain to people. Oh, I talk based on our tradition, Theravada. Yes, Theravada say that. It's Theravada's tradition. That's correct. Correct. This one, okay. This one I explained to you already. Hirakawa. Hirakawa. Hirakawa disappear.
Just now that one. The next one.
Yeah.
There, this
Slide
one.
17.
Oh,
is the
yeah.
Yeah.
17.
This one I explained.
Okay.
According to him, Ananda must have decided only the gist of it. That's all. Then later the compiler, because
But this Professor Hirakawa, he made this based on what? Or this is his opinion, is it?
you want to read
I don't want to read.
you have to go back and do research again. His famous theory is what, 60 years ago, he came up with a theory that the origin of Mahayana was based on stupa worship. It's by the layman's practice, chanting and worship the stupa. But 60 years later, today, people say wrong. But it has been popular for the past 50 or 60 years ago. People believe that his theory regarding the origin of Mahayana. But today we don't talk about Mahayana. So unless later we talk about the origin of Mahayana Buddhism, we talk about Hirakawa Akira's theory and the latest theory different. So he got he got a lot of theories. He's a Pali expert also. Now his books is very popular one. A lot of university students still use his book, History of Buddhism. There are two most popular books. One is A.K. Wanda. One is Hirakawa, Akira Hirakawa. These two books. You should read these two books. These two, okay. Most popular book, these two. That's all, nothing else. Then, what about Abhidhamma? Two theory. One is based on tradition. One is based on history. Today, we may not have the time. Maybe later when we talk, we have one more lesson strictly on the origin and development of Abhidhamma later. But now, running short of time, I just say that one based on his tradition. Tradition is based on Buddhaghosa's theory. Buddhaghosa's in his commentary to the first books of Abhidhamma, they call Dhammasangani. So he compiled Abhidhamma, compiled a commentary called Atasalini. He say, 7 years after enlightenment, Buddha went up to heaven and then talked to the Abhidhamma, to all the Deva, including the mother who came down from Tusita heaven to Tawatimsa to talk. All this one theory. According to history, it's different. Abhidhamma was the elaboration, expansion of the Metika, developed Kaliu and then expanded into text. Developed another theory, historical. We still have how many books? 25. Can we rush it? So this one we reserve for later. We talk more detail later. So appearance of Pali Tipitaka. Tipitaka officially appeared after the Third Buddhist Council. Third Buddhist Council. Later we will discuss this. next week when we talk about third and the fourth Buddhist council and the compilation and the of Tipitaka, you see. So this one we reserve for next lesson. Then now we talk about the languages. The language used in Tipitaka. From nowadays, everyone says Buddha spoke Pali. I don't know. But any evidence or not? There's no text, Sutta say that Buddha spoke Pali. Then another theory is that Buddha spoke Magadhi. There was what Buddha Gosa say in his commentary, 5th century CE. He said Buddha's teaching all recorded in Magadhi. Why he say Magadhi? What is Magadhi? Magadhi means the dialects spoken by the people in Makala kingdom. You know, King Ajatasattu, Bimbisara, all this Makala kingdom. So people there spoke Magadhi lah. Just like you are from Hainam, you speak Hainamese. You're from Hokkien, speak Hokkien. Convenient lah, you know, just give you a label lah. So since the modern version of Tipitaka came from where? Pataliputra, after the third council, correct or not? So during the third council, people spoke what? People have to use a common language to, you know, to conduct like during the meeting, what, right? You know, citation when you in Malaysia, you we all these people have meetings. You all speak Bahasa, what. So in Magadha, they have the third council. So the common language or lingua franca or something like that was Magadhi, the popular or the official language spoken by the people in Magadha. So Buddha Gosa say people, the text based on the Magadha version must be Magadhi, recorded in Magadhi, and the versions spread to Sri Lanka. So the text was Magadhi version. So Buddha spoke Magadhi, is what he say lah. Even in Buddha Gosa, he also never say Pali. He used the word Magadhi for convenience sake, you see. So there was a long-held tradition. But how come people nowadays say Pali? This theory, Pali, Buddha spoke Pali, it's not a long theory, no, it's not a long-held theory. Only happens this few hundred years only. Possibly in Thailand. I read one article, it originated in Thailand. But why Thai people or ancient Thai people or people say Buddha spoke Pali, then they trace out to Visuddhimagga. Because Visuddhimagga, there was one term, Pali Bahasa, composite term, you know, it's not a single term, Pali dash Bahasa. So translator mistranslated. Pali Bahasa. Bahasa means language, Bahasa. Pali Bahasa, in fact, in Visuddhimagga, it means the language of Pali. Pali literally means what? The holy text. So Pali Bahasa means the language of the holy text. That's the original meaning. But later people mistranslated. Oh, Pali Bahasa means, oh, Pali was the, or Pali is the Bahasa spoken by Pali. They translated that way. Instead of the Bahasa of the sacred text. original meaning. They translated Pali is the language, Pali Bahasa. That was a mistranslation. That's why nowadays people follow the later mistranslation that Buddha's language called Pali. That's how it originated lah, you know. Then the word Pali Bahasa mentioned in Visuddhimagga. The word Pali appear in this text means holy text, sacred text, differentiated from the commentary. Because in Buddhist literature, you have the holy text and the commentary text. Pali means the holy text. Pali Bahasa means the Bahasa, the language of the holy text, and not the holy text recorded in Pali. Different translation. So the two theory, originally, Buddha never say he spoke Pali, never say he spoke Magadhi. Later, Buddha Gosa in his commentary say that Buddhist text recorded in Magadhi. So people during that time believe that Buddha spoke Magadhi. But later, this few hundred years, people say Buddha spoke Pali because there was a mistranslation in about the word Pali Bahasa. The term, wisdom appear in Visuddhimagga. That was how this belief came about. The belief that Buddha spoke Pali came about. You see. So what is Pali? So-called Pali, the nature of Pali. So the modern scholar have thorough research, you know. Then they study all the modern Tipitaka, the languages, the grammar, the vocabulary, etc., and everything, pronunciation, and then they compare with Asoka's edict. You know, Asoka left behind a lot of this rock inscription, a lot of inscription, the edicts appear on the surface of the pillar, right or not? They use that as a standard things to compare. Luckily, Asoka left behind a lot of this evidence for people to do research. So based on the current version of the Tipitaka, those so-called Pali words, this and that, people compare the languages, compare the term they use, vocab, compare the sentence construction, and so on and so forth. They have their own way to do. So the people, they came to a conclusion, the scholar, the current version, current Buddhist so-called Pali languages as recorded in the Pali Tipitaka version today. It's not the standard homogeneous type. It's not does not belong to the same group or same place. It's a mixture. So we call heterogeneous nature. Rojak type lah. Yes, like the modern day Malaysian English lah, or Singapore English lah. I go to kampong lah. I go to pasar, buy this something like that lah. Mixture lah, you know. You talk, I go to pasar, to pasar malam today. The Masale, the English people, oh, you're from Malaysia. Oh, yeah lah, yes lah, something like that. So now scholar also based on same method to study all our current version of Tipitaka, the Pali text. They found out and compare with the Asoka, Pillar, all this. They said, oh, our modern our Pali as recorded in the Tipitaka, also a Roja type, you see. It's not pure Pali that you can find in Magadha, because Magadha got so many rock inscription and pillar inscription for scholar to compare, you know. So those say in the Magadha, of course, they use a pure Magadha to carve, to record down on the rock and the pillar. And then they also study those words, inscription in other parts of India. Then they find out, oh, the current version, Tipitaka, the Pali, partly, most of it from the Magadha, true. Some from the western part, some from other part. So it's a Roja type. So they found out some of it are used, in fact, they compare the languages inscribed onto Asoka's Arabic surface and discovered majority portion of language used from the western region, Western India, Gujarat. Gujarat is further from Bombay, the type. Only a certain portion from the Magadha kingdom, from Pataliputra, the side, you see. So based on their research, so you cannot say that our version Pali is pure Magadhi also. You cannot say that based on their research. And you cannot say it's a Pali also, because no such thing as, you cannot find any evidence in Sutta, and they can only give you the evidence from the Pali Bahasa. Oh, it's a mistranslation from Visuddhimagga. So the theory is that Buddha did not speak Magadhi, Buddha did not speak Pali. We can only say that he spoke the languages wherever he went, he spoke the local languages. It's what he told the two monks in, right or not? As recorded in the Vinaya today. So he went there, but his mother tongue, of course, the Sakyang, Sakyang, born in Sakya. But later, during the 45 years preaching career, he spoke various dialects. So you cannot say the present one is Pali purely from Magadha. It's a mixture also. Nothing else. That's all today, up to 6 o'clock. 4, 5, 6, yeah, exactly. Except the Abhidhamma, we reserve later. The origin of Abhidhamma. We talk more detail later. Just now we told you two theory, one based on history, one based on tradition, correct or not? We will talk more details later, one lesson for it. So any questions? So today exactly 2 hours, more or less cover all. It's a very heavy subject, correct or not?
So, brother, are we supposed to answer this question when
No,
chronicle text?
Not necessarily, you just think it over.
Oh, okay.
Because in the absence of all the evidences, record not complete, people also don't know. When the Chinese Tipitaka, all the Mahasangika, because nowadays you don't have a complete Tipitaka of other Buddhist school, correct or not? Even though you believe, you say that Mahasangika 4 Pitaka, Dhammakutaka 5 Pitaka, but that one appear in the theory only, but in the actual translation, you can hardly find a complete text. So of course you don't have evidence to prove it. When their canon was finalized, we cannot say. This is a conclusion, opinion I can tell you.
Okay.
They cover a lot of areas. You have to.
So, brother Yap, can I ask, like for example, the Mahayanis one, you read those sutta that's so long, so many volumes, like the flower adornment.
Yes.
Are these all really from the Buddha's mouth or not? I can say that
There's a later compilation by the monks. And the Chinese sutta, they have a lot of small sutta they combine into a collection,
Yeah, correct.
They make into the name itself is a sutta, but
Sutta, yeah, correct.
it's a collection of so many.
Yes.
Yes,
It means you got few
Buddhaka.
volumes inside one sutta, you know, or not? Like few
Yes, I
hundred
know.
volume like that.
Pali's Kudaka Nikaya.
Yeah.
Pali Kulaka Nikaya, 15 books, but only one Nikaya. You know, it consists of so many sutta. Yes, Nikaya lah, the Samyutta Nikaya, Angutta Nikaya, few thousand of sutta. Correct or not? Chinese version also same. One, but they call it one sutta instead of one Nikaya.
Yeah, correct.
Basically, the agamas those are the more authentic one, right?
Oh, you cannot say authentic lah. It's more or less same as Pali. You say agama authentic, then you say Pali also authentic.
Yeah.
Because the four agama.
I mean, what I'm trying to say is like the Sister Juliana, she said just now, got all those small suttas, right? Like, how authentic were they, right? But not in the agamas means they are not authentic, lah.
You can say that lah, because all these have been proven that you can't find in the agama, you cannot find in the Pali Nikaya also. So at least the agama authentic in the sense that you can trace back to Nikaya.
Compare it
Two
with
also
the
can trace. Two also there. They show that they all came from the same fountainhead, spring milk. Different interpretation only lah, different school what. But Chinese one, you cannot find.
Yeah, I cannot find because
not to say Chinese one, this the particular text, because if you say Chinese, the agama also Chinese. You must specific, mention. Awatang Saka Sutta.
Yes.
Or Suddhamma Saddhamma Pundalika Sutta. Or anything like that.
Okay. So like the Surangama Sutta also, I don't think we have it, isn't it? In the Pali version.
Surangama also late compilation. Langkavatara Sutta.
Yeah. Okay. So these are all,
Sunday Limo.
Come up with, actually all these sutta comes with a lot of verses, short verses as well. Like the pantun like that lah, you can say lah.
Verses. That one you are expert lah, yeah.
Not to say expert lah, because I attended Sifu's Dharma lesson. Very interesting that sutta. Where is your mind? You ask you, where's your mind? The Buddha asked Ananda, where's your mind? Correct or not? And then Ananda replied the Buddha, but the Buddha didn't pointed and say Ananda is wrong. And then he was just, like Ananda says, it's from my eye. Then he said, okay, it's from your eye, isn't it? Then you should look inward. Then you should be able to see your body, your inner body. Can you see your inner body or not? He said, look from the house, isn't it? You look up from they said that from the house, from the window. Your eye is the window, correct? Isn't it? So you should be able to see what is the content in the house, correct? Isn't it? If you say it's from the window, isn't it? So same like you're from the eye, then you should be able to see inward, your body, organ, everything. But are you able to do that? You see, the Buddha replied like this way, So Ananda was like, it's not from the eye.
Sister Juliana, then you should go and check the authenticity of this sutta, go and compare whether it's in the Nikayas or not.
Because this is the Mahayanese one, I can say. That's why I don't want to know.
I think can still Google. I think should be able to find.
Now only scholar begin to compare Mahayana and the Theravada. In the past, nobody.
None, isn't it?
Only this 10 years or 15 years. In the past, the English versions must really concentrate on the Theravada, because the British people came to Sri Lanka, came to Burma. They study the Mahayana version, the Chinese version. They know nothing except the Japanese. Now only they study backward. Then they found out a lot of things, new things.
Yeah.
Okay, any more questions?
Off recording.